yield growth and disease management performances of capsicum cultivated in Sri Lanka. Basically, this research was initiated for this crop. Many crops in Sri Lanka we cultivated, but this crop, as a cash crop, it has a good potential to lift the farmer's income. Therefore, this crop is very famous among the farmers, and they have good export-oriented agribusiness and their local market. Usually, the cultivate in 4,000 hectares annually, and basically it is suitable to cultivate in dry and intermediate zones of the country. Year round, we can we can have 36 metric tons per annum. And open field cultivation, we call extensive farming. We can earn, 15 tons per hectare, but the potential yield can be improved by the cultivation under protected covers. But there are certain arguments whether it is feasible or under different conditions. Anyway, when we go to this present scenario, the global warming has drastically influenced on the agricultural development, agricultural crop productions, basically due to biotic and abiotic stresses and risks from food productions. These are actually really problems for agricultural development. Therefore, farmers are now moving to the production under protected houses. But even though the farmers are starting this cultivation with having some positive advantage, like the cultivation under tunnel can be harvested up to 180 days, but only the open field extensive cultivation can be limited 117 days for the harvesting from the field planting up to final harvesting, and also fairly higher amount of yield can be taken from the control atmosphere or cultivation on the tunnel. But even though we are doing this one, and farmers are certainly face certain difficulty during these processes, therefore, uh, therefore we very keen on this cultivation pattern in Sri Lanka has not given higher focus on to study variation in different agro-ecological zones under protected cultivation. Even though farmers are started, but there are no such studies are done. Although there are protected houses, such studies have not been sufficiently exposed to the advancement of science and technology. Therefore, the research focus on evaluating the impact of microclimate modification on plant growth, performance, yield, and finally the management of pests and diseases under the both conditions. Therefore, this research was initiated with this objective. The general objective is to evaluate the effectiveness of microclimate modification on yield, growth, and disease management performance of capsicum. And basically, we use a Muria, the hybrid variety, very famous in the country, and cultivation under extensive and intensive system. There are several specific objectives. The first objective, specific objective, is to establish the crop under two different cultivation systems as extensive and intensive cultivation and protected houses, and evaluate the morphological characteristics of two cultivation, like their growth, development, and performances, and also the abiotic factors like temperature, humidity, and ventilation, lighting, and so the protected system. And biotic factors, basically pests and diseases, are most terrible in the country because the leaf curl complaint caused by the Beckham virus disseminated by these aphid mealybugs, and those tips are a very big problem in the country during the cultivation and extensive system. And also we are going to evaluate the yield quality and quantity parameters, and ultimately we are going to evaluate the effectiveness or economic feasibility of these studies. These are the basic objectives. Now we move into the methodology of research in order to understand whether this climate has drastic influence on plant growth and development. Therefore, we want to think about because the evaluation, because the farmers are telling extensive farmings are difficult due to these climatic changes, and plants are especially organs, they are susceptible for these biotic and abiotic stresses. Therefore, we want to understand how these cultivation and protected houses are efficient and effective to these global climatic changes and improve the agricultural productivity and move towards to the agricultural modernization. Therefore, we have started this research at the Department of Agriculture Technology, Faculty of Technology in Colombo, in Sri Lanka. It belongs to low country wet zone of the country. Basically, the complete randomized designing was used for these experiments. The experiment was conducted under polytunnel constructed under the actually the funded by the Sri Lankan Council for Agriculture Research and Research Policy. They have given us the research grant to construct tunnels in order to carry out this research, and also research was done very close by the tunnel open environment. And these are the two experimental units. First one is cultivation under tunnel. As a three replicates you can see, with one replicate containing 24 plants per each, and same experimental design was conducted for uh, tunnel cultivation as well as the operations under the extensive system. The experiment designing everything are done correctly. Only the one treatment, the modification of microclimate. Then we will move into the parameters. Actually, these are the nursery management practices we done. We use these EP pellets to prepare our nurseries, and we treated with this Captan as a seed treatment. The preparations were done, and after treatment, these whole seedlings were transplanted to the two different sets. You can see here open field cultivation with all the necessary conditions, and all the necessary conditions given by the Department of Agriculture Sri Lanka were used for the cultivation of these crops. And the polytunnel cultivation also done with the same recommendation given by the DOA with we are using liquid fertilizer, and temperature, light, and humidity and winds protections were done as a microclimatic modification to see the impact of external environment on internal factors. And these are the data which we collected during our process. Environment parameters, temperature, relative humidity were really monitored, and plant growth parameters such as plant height, number of leaves, number of branches, leaves, chlorophyll contents, and also reproductive parameters, days of first flowering, and flower to fruit ratio, and disease management, disease incidence, and disease severity were recorded periodically, and yield rate like days of first harvest, number of pods per plant, single fruit weight, yield per plants were recorded, and yield quality assessment we done pod length, pod per diameter, and pericarp thickness were recorded. As economic impact data, we collected these data like input cost, labor unit, and management cost for electricity and water, and market harvest versus non-marketable harvest also were categorized. Then data was analyzed by using SPSS statistical software. Now we move into the results and discussion of my research. Whenever we have the variation of environmental condition under protected houses and open field, the high temperature was recorded inside the tunnel as compared to the external environment. And also minimum temperature also when we compare that, it's also recorded in the open field, but moderately higher temperature was recorded inside the tunnel. But temperature differences or temperature gap between the polytunnels and open fields are less than always the 5 degrees centigrade. And minimum and maximum temperature during the experimental period in polytunnels and open fields are recorded periodically to collect and see the weather data by using temperature sensors, and also we use sensors and analog methods also we use to collect this data, compare this data, and fairly high temperature was there inside the tunnel, and the and minimum temperature in open field and maximum temperature in polytunnel. You can see how they are fluctuating with the time. The temperatures are changing there. We can't see the linearity. Just indicate how temperature influence on plant growth and development. Another one is the relative humidity, also fairly higher, but there's no significant difference among the RH outside the tunnel and inside the external environment. And the relative humidity was the relative humidity also uh, very very higher. When we come to the relative humidity, it is really lower in outside and a little bit higher in inside the tunnel as we done during our research. while the open field exhibit lower relative humidity on average. And now when we move into the plant growth, you can see the very proper growth and development can be seen inside the tunnel. Plants are closely growing with the high number of branches, leaves, and number of flowers per plant. And significant difference can be seen these phenological parameters during the growth period under tunnels and extensive environment. And these are the effects of both treatments on different growth parameters of capsicum plant at the reproductive stage and highest, the height also significantly different and leaves also significantly different and branches and chlorophyll contents are really high inside the tunnel as far as compared to the external environment. And also disease development severity, disease incidence also very low inside the tunnel as far as we compare with the external environment. But anyway, the most diseases like holy diseases, food diseases are very low inside the tunnel compared to the external environment. But whenever the vector-borne diseases like the diseases are disseminated by the vectors like aphid, thrips, and millibug, like leaf curl complex, are really threaten. That's what we want to maintain the very hygienic condition inside the tunnels. When we come to
Dr.
the
Kumara.
okay, okay. Now you can see that these are the
Dr.
quality.
Kumara, are you with us?
Okay, hello. Tell me, hello.
Yes, yes. You only have 2 minutes. Can you round off, please?
Okay, okay, madam. Okay, madam. Now, these are the quality parameters. You can see the large pot length and nice looking outer skin can be started while cultivating inside the tunnel. These are my conclusions. The growth performance, reproductive performance, and yield quality parameters are really significantly higher at the polytunnel as far as compared to the tunnel. And first yield, we were recorded kilograms per tunnel, and we only get a 3 kilograms therefore from the external environment. Microclimate modification fostering for optimal condition for plant development and reproduction. And disease incidence in polytunnel, which persist longer in polytunnels as the enclosed space offer more favorable for surgeon than the open environment. That's what we want to maintain the hygienic conditions and maintain number of people enter. Despite higher initial cost, the increased yield and reduced losses for disease make polytunnel a profitable and sustainable option for capsicum cultivation. Sri Lanka modification through polytunnel offer a promising strategy to enhancing productivity, quality, and the long-term profitability and climate resilience agriculture in tropical environment. Okay, now can